Okay. Let's start. Like who did the cars part but not the JSON part? Okay. And who couldn't do the cars part of it? Just the filter and map.
Well, I started with the JSON part,
Mm-hmm.
and it took all the time. So
Okay.
they said because it's more difficult,
Yeah.
I'll start with it, and after that I'll go back to the cars. So I didn't have time.
Okay.
But it's not because they
Yeah.
didn't, but it's just because of time.
Yeah, that's fine. But usually that's how like the homework is set up 1, 2, 3, 4.
It was just good to start from that.
Yeah. If it works, it works. But yeah, otherwise. Yeah. Right. So let me start. Okay. Who did the cars but not JSON again? Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Can you explain where in the JSON part you got stuck? Which exactly? Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Mhm. Sorry. Okay. Try to find your homework. Just stop me when you see it. No. I just opened all of yours, so now it's a bit mixed up.
That's
yeah. This?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Just
This one?
no, yeah. No, one joke and all. Okay, it's like this. No, it's function which sentence.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. The first was saying we have to. No, the first I consult of all cards because I need to show all massive which I have.
Yeah.
Second part was saying we have to console log cards which speed between more than 30 and less than 60. For this I use filter. Yes. It's like filter. I don't know how. No, he used function in argument like this. In our array we have objects. Every object is card, and in this object I return cards this that more than 30 and less than 60. The next exercise was not we had a console of not yellow card. No yellow card. No, I use filter like it's not equal like no. And this
Okay.
no, I think it's good. I use map because in what I understand in exercise was we have to return not color, we have to return makers which don't do yellow card. I use map works the same. He this function which return card makes. No, I console logs makers. Oh, and yeah, I change key in object this one. And
yeah.
What else?
Yeah. No, yeah, that's fine. Did anyone use some other method to do this exercise? Nobody tried to do a for each and then try to filter by hand or something?
But I think we have to filter and map returns a new array.
Yeah.
It doesn't return anything.
Yeah.
We do something with every object, but I think we need like new array.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. like we saw in an example last time, like you can also create a array outside and collect it, within a for each. But I think you guys have understood that, well, you could do that, but this is like much more convenient and straightforward. So that's why perhaps nobody tried using something else. Um, this a couple of points, like I mean, because I'm just seeing like a pattern. Like this is fine. Like this console logs, um, just fine. But also try and get used more to the template string. So you can embed the test object within if you use the backticks just in one place. Um, I'm saying more, not really because this is a problem, more like just try and practice more of that because that has a lot of utility in a lot of places as you'll see later on. Yeah.
Yes, but because I sometimes
Yeah.
console array, and you something confusing with what array. I do like this. All cars, and I know which array.
No, there's no problem in that. It's just as a fun. All right. So did you try the JSON homework or it? Okay. Which over here? Mhm. Does it work or
Yes, this works.
it works? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I use table, but I found the answer in I forgot all about this.
Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, in the function create table, I should create the table. In this line, I use style for this because we have to see what it's like this and the ground color, the ground color, maybe actually show.
Okay. Okay, but just again, the thing is, back in the day of very old CSS, you couldn't do grid-like layout without using a table. So everyone in the industry used a table for making grid layout. And at a certain point, when CSS evolved more, like people, like some like in Bootstrap, you don't use a table when you make columns, for example, right? So as much as possible, like when you see an example or sorry, an answer which tells you to use a table, sometimes also try and analyze it with a filter of like how old is that answer and like can it be done with something else, because you guys have done the HTML CSS, you can do it without, again, like not, there is no like problem in the solution as itself. I'm just telling you because it would be similar when you look in Stack Overflow. Like for example, we don't teach you guys jQuery over here, right? But go back like 5 or 6 years or a bit more than that, like and it was really the main library everyone used in JavaScript because a lot of the features didn't exist in native JavaScript at that point. So people had to use it for a lot of convenience functions. Like I think like map was it a map filter, for example. These weren't part of the JavaScript API at that point. You didn't have arrow functions. You didn't have a lot of like very nice things over at that time. And also you had to manipulate a lot of DOM by hand. So people really preferred using the selectors in jQuery. Now it's really not needed. When you will go to work with like Angular and React, you would see that you don't really manipulate small elements, but you rather manipulate the data underneath, which is like a completely new paradigm. So again, like when you're looking at answers on Stack Overflow, get the idea, but then also analyze of like if it's relevant to like how you're programming at this moment. Okay, so I can see like this works fine. Okay, is there somebody who didn't do the JSON part and has doubt in it? Yeah. Okay, like where did you get stuck?
It's just I didn't get the I was trying to make the how you understand with JSON and how to use it.
Okay. Try and explain. So if you look over here, right? Okay, so this is you've embedded the whole string as a JavaScript array right over here, right? JSON is just like if instead of embedding this right over here, if this was a string in itself, right? And then you would have one more step of parsing it to get the JavaScript object. That's pretty much, JSON is literally JavaScript object notation. It's JavaScript objects and arrays saved into a string file. Okay. So it will look, this is pretty much JSON, right? And you know that in like when you're writing JavaScript, you don't need to code the keys, for example. JSON has this additional limitation and some other, like you can't translate a function into JSON because it's only for object notation. That's where
So
the
basically, you can compress objects into a string. That's it.
not compress but notify, yeah, encode. And the advantage is that because it looks exactly like JavaScript objects, it's very fast for any JavaScript-based environment to make into JavaScript object. They don't have to do anything to convert it. That was why it was birthed for the web. Yeah. Right. But as you see, like when it translates into an array in this case, and then you can just iterate over it like you would do for an array. You don't really have to think about it as being anything outside of JavaScript. That's the main point. I will look through some solutions. Okay. Whose solution is this one? Okay. Are you also using a table or are you using something else? Okay. You styled it like a table. That's fine. Yeah.
But I can see if that's too, is it fine?
It's fine. Like also making tables is fine. Tables have a particular use case when you're representing data as a table, with like rows and columns. Yeah. Yeah. And also you can style a table as well. I think you guys will understand when you do work a bit more with bigger layouts. Okay. We had some others. Okay. Wait, who's this one? Yeah. That's also nice. Start cases. Yeah, I think we had one more pretty cool solution. Maybe not. Okay. Yeah. And this is also with list elements, or what have you done? Sorry. Is it also with list, or how is the markup? Is it with list elements?
Oh yeah, I did this because first of all, the assignment up to list. So for that reason, I went for list. And it's much easier because if you create two lists, you can move, everything, whatever you want with position, and so I prefer to use list instead of table.
Yeah.
I went for I create two lists instead of using one list and do display flex because it just will mess it up, and I cannot make the HTML SSS close to the info. Therefore, that reason I use two lists instead.
I mean, there's ways to hack around as well. There's way to solve that problem as well. But I'll let you try.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Does somebody have any questions in their homework which I can look at now? No questions. We have some time. Yeah.
Is there a way, for example, in that one, is when you get the elements for starting these functions, it's like everything is in one. I mean, is there a way to put a language and it will
Not
Because
completely.
when I
Mhm.
created it, it's a loop. So when I document the element and then
Okay. So you want like a list of stargazers, a list of watchers, a list of fog.
Itself only up until 4, and then because what I did there is that it's everything is that 4 or 16 items is all
Mhm.
in one. So I just to separate them, I just in nth child to make a space.
Mhm.
So is there a way that for each array the stargaze watchers fourth and which is separated?
Yeah, you could use a map to separate it. You could go over it and just return one thing at a time.
Well, I didn't get what you want to do.
Because when it's like it's a loop. If I didn't use CSS, everything there's no word. I mean, there's no border below. So
Let's
it's like,
look into your code. I think that would help.
Space between
Yeah. Which part?
so it's the
This one?
modules info. So I called it on the last part. So it will like
This one?
yeah. Is there a way if to stop it when it gets to one array? So it gets 4 of the stargazers not mentioned. Then next plan will group them together.
Let
So
me
what
try
happens
and-
there is that everything will go all at once in a list in one URL.
Okay, so all the
If I don't have the CSS, I remove it. It will just everything, all 16 of them will
let me
show
just.
in one. So I just paste spaces from under the language.
You mean this? Okay. Okay, so yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like you can, because like when you have all the repos, right, and you filter, so you have the correct ones that you want to display. Right? First of all, you could manipulate it in JavaScript to collect the right kind of data structure. Like you can only return, for one, for one, for one, for one, right? So then you have, and then you can iterate over it separately to render it. So that's like easy, but probably less performant option. The other would be
thing that
supposed to separate. You want to separate these four, then separate these four, then separate these four. Kind of, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Then it gives you more layout options. But maybe you have done that in your script.
I didn't have because when you create
Let me see.
undefined
Okay, yeah, you have it. Yeah.
one list that each
Uh-huh. You could just literally embed it in another element within the same iteration.
Yeah, I was having hard time with it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of options. You can also embed something within this item. Then you could render it into different containers so they can both do this or do this based on the width of the layout. Yeah, that's a question. Right. So, yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, let's look at it with code. So I think it would be easier. Just stop me when it's wait. No. Just stop me when it's yours. Here. Yeah. Yeah. Here. Right. Yeah. Okay. One point of just what do you call? Look on just like code clarity, right? So first of all, even if you're using a for loop, you could save the repo I as a reference first, so you don't have to repeat it like 20 different times, right? Second of all, you won't get into this problem if you use a for each, because repo I is the, is the item which you're iterating over by default. Just think of like how much easier it would make to write it instead of maybe copy pasting or doing it by
After looping over, I created my list for HTML. So I just from here, I just did rather than coming to write and to look to connect to my HTML file. I just did it from here. Like after this, just got them to dot inner HTML equals base. Yeah. So when I did that, and I went to my console, it said it's not an object.
It's not an object.
Yeah.
But the error is found when you append it, right?
Yeah.
Or
no, I didn't do this initially. From here, I didn't. So from here, I didn't come to this. Okay. To write this line, I just did from this dot. I just like this long line from after the bracket dot inner HTML equals date.
Okay.
That's because when I was looking at it when I was reading online, I saw a lot of some stack flow. I saw a lot, but I didn't test it to actually see if it works. So I just thought it was bad. So when I used this project, it said it's not an object.
Yeah, because you have to kind of think about like when like what it's returning, and it can be tricky sometimes. It's hard to explain like why that happens. Like, but basically, if you would have applied brackets around document.createElementLi and then done it, maybe it would have. Maybe it could have worked, but we can try and see later. Sometimes because it's like, what are you chaining? It's sometimes not apparent. When the API is designed nicely, then it lets you do it anyway. But sometimes so sometimes you can try that, but yeah.
Maybe when I did that, it didn't connect from document
Yeah, there's like have to explain, but yeah, like the dot operator, when you're designing it, when you're writing the code which somebody can dot it, you have to give considerations, which is not always given. It's not it doesn't always execute and chain. Sometimes it tries to execute the whole thing first, and it depends on how the first part is written before.
Which means I could just do like give this a name.
The first part? Yeah, you could just in the first part say that something like repo is equal to not repo, but yeah. No, I mean, let's say if you had instead of repo you had repos, then you could have said that repo is equal to repo file, and then you wouldn't have needed to write this everywhere. Otherwise, if you had done a for each, then that just gives you that element you want to access instead of the index. You can still get the index later, but it gives you that as well. Plus, yeah, you can also think that you can even, in a lot of cases, return a map as well for these kind of challenges. When you want to return all the elements and then grab it and append it on the outside. You also have that option as well. Plus one more thing which this is perfectly fine again, Like, because if it works fine, it probably you have done the right thing. But a lot of this API is also a bit old in JavaScript, right? What you're doing in the end when you have this document API is like you're creating like DOM elements, but like DOM elements are also in string. Just 1 second. What you can also do is like create the whole thing in string as well. Because if you understand, when you have like template strings, you can access, just you can write it like it would look in a markup and then append it to your document in the end, which might look more easy depending on like, but you have that option. You don't need to do the create element always. I'll show you. Let's. What was the thing you guys use? Not TFBin, but Cosmin, yeah. So let's.
To create the HTML, DOM, and create all the IDs without creating them, create the element on the JavaScript?
Yes. Somewhat, you'll see. But you have gotten the right idea. So let's say, no, let's take that cars for now. I will let the other example for the bigger. So, you have something like that. I mean, this is what I mean.
So you just do that
Because yeah, you can.
Without creating the data every time, the element every time.
What's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, template strings again. And I didn't close the tag. Yeah, yes, this session is being recorded. Yeah, and you can. I'm just giving you a hint of like how it might come together. This is of course not a full example. I'm leaving it to your imagination. All right, but and what was it? Document.append essential and
Show you the name.
yeah, where is our
document? But you have to create the list anyway.
no, but it's
document.body.append.
Okay. I'm not good at this.
You have to address it.
Is there some mistake in this? Console. No, it isn't console. Because I forgot to go. Isn't this the HTML? What do you have to create? Here.
can also test it on the JavaScript thing. Yeah,
Fine. Okay, we have JavaScript. Expensive.
You have to turn HTML and HTML off.
No, it should have been here. I think this doesn't take the ES6 basically. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not happy with it. Okay, so fine. I think it's also not happy with the template strings. Yeah, this is. I think that's more the problem than. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Try it out. Okay, I think in the browser it might work directly. Yeah. That depends. Parameter is not open.
Oh, yeah.
Should I just okay, that worked, and you can see it actually. It's here. It just got appended in a place where it shouldn't be appended. Yeah. It works like that, but it's just not at the right place because this is a very styled page. We should move on to the lecture part of it. Did you have something? Mm-hmm.
I want to ask if there's a way to make it easier in a way that, like, when you after linking everything together, it becomes easier to just because that's a bit, I guess that's like maybe little calculations on my CSS, like with the padding and the margin to make it really like dot. So
There's no, you'll understand that by experience. There's no substitution for that. There are some cleverer CSS frameworks which work better with calculation, right? And there's also some shorthands for like there's a calc function in CSS, but it's still, I mean, you have to see how it works, and it won't be perfect magic. So yeah.